Seven-term Democratic Congressman Jim Langevin of Rhode Island is among the many supporters of the UN treaty. He's the first quadriplegic person to serve in the U.S. House. Before yesterday's vote, he talked with former Senator Bob Dole in the Senate chamber. The congressman joins me now. You voted for this treaty. You joined Senator McCain and Kerry earlier this week calling for its ratification. Why do you think it's so important?
First of all, Anderson, thank you for having me on the program, and thank you for paying attention to this very important issue. This issue is important not just for people here in the United States, but most especially for people around the world who don't yet enjoy the same protections that disabled people like myself enjoy here in the United States because of the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. That law has really transformed the lives of people with disabilities, and I can speak to that firsthand. I was injured in 1980, became paralyzed after a gun accident, and I know what the law was like, or what the world was like, both before and after the ADA, and I can tell you it's remarkably different. And well, I mean, it's just a shame that the Senate couldn't pass that measure yesterday. But I do want to thank Senator Kerry and Senator McCain, Senator Harkin, for the extraordinary leadership and everything they did to get it to this point, and the bipartisan support, the 61 senators who did vote in favor of it.
But I mean, look, some people look at the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and they say if the U.S. has what's considered by many to be the gold standard of legislation in this area, why do we even need a treaty from the UN?
Because we're in many ways endorsing the work of the UN in trying to spread that message of equality and protection of the rights of people with disabilities around the world. And how can we, in a sense, show leadership in this area if we're not able to and willing to join with the other nations around the world who have supported this treaty? So for
those who say this violates U.S. sovereignty, because they argue it could somehow force changes in U.S. law, is that even possible? Because I don't see how that's possible.
Not even possible. Not even possible. In fact, the Senate, its advice and consent wording, made it very clear that it does not trump U.S. law. In fact, there's a U.S. Supreme Court decision, I believe it was in 2004, that said such statements by the Senate are dispositive. So it would give no standing to anyone in U.S. courts to sue either state or federal courts, and absolutely does not trump the Constitution or any U.S. law. In many ways, it is a standard that we want other nations to aspire to, if you will. And we are setting the standard with the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. But it makes the treaty making the rights of people with disabilities even more relevant and more clear by endorsing a treaty that is designed to give the same protections around the world that we enjoy here in the United States.
So in fact, the whole idea of it really is directed toward other countries around the world as opposed to the United States. There are obviously quite a few lawmakers who are opposed to anything related to the United Nations, suspicious of the UN. Do you think that's part of what this opposition to this treaty is about?
I think it's very clearly what this is about. That there are some lawmakers, unfortunately, in the very conservative elements of the Republican Party, who have made a decision that any UN treaty is not good for the United States, that they don't want to see us signing on to any UN treaty. And it's unfortunate. They're using false arguments, red herrings, if you will, to try to scare people or block any kind of endorsement or ratification of a treaty of this nature. And it really is a shame that those individuals who are of that philosophy are using the disabilities law as a way to block a treaty and hurt people, if you will, around the world that are disabled, including people in war-torn countries that have received their disability because of war injuries, and now they're going to be not going to enjoy potentially the same protections that we have here in the United States. And by the way, we heard from individuals here, war veterans who are concerned, when they travel around the world, that U.S. citizens travel around the world with disability, they may not enjoy those same civil rights protections that the ADA guarantees here. And another reason why we want other nations to follow our lead, if you will, and aspire to pass an ADA-type law in their countries. And how can we show leadership if we're not, as a country, signing on to that UN treaty on the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities? So many people work so hard to see that convention document written and approved. And some of the disabilities rights advocates, some of the real heroes in the disabilities movement here in the United States championed that. They endorsed that treaty. And you have Senator Santorum, who comes along and says, or others who say, yeah, this isn't going to be good for disabled people. You know, who are they?
Yeah, well, Congressman, I appreciate your time tonight. And again, we're not reporting on this based on politics. We're just looking at facts here, and the facts that were being used against this were just incorrectly used. They just weren't true. Congressman, appreciate your time tonight.